Previously on the Beam Chronicles.
He called it Tico fluid. Essentially, it was a charcoal gray liquid in its natural state until I applied a very specific sort of manipulation via telekinesis. There was a small vat of it just sitting in the arena.
What the hell is this? Why can't I move?
You can't move because I injected you with a powerful and targeted nervous system inhibitor developed by Dr. Kovorski.
They tracked Queztopo all the way to the middle of the Atlantic, where he stimulated volcanic activity to create an island fortress.
They're broken people, guys. That brokenness is what let them make the hard calls when going got tough. But see, it's never gotten this tough before. They don't know what to do because instinct and history tells them to start their hair on fire and spiral into oblivion if it's a romantic enough cause. They're broken.
But fear not.
Hey, fear not? That's on the banned nerd phrase list.
Enzo had several things he wasn't allowed to say. We did have to make sure he was over the whole hero kick.
We watched with bated breath as the stone soared through the air into the acrylic tube designed to suspend whatever was inside of it. But the rock fell.
The TI does not affect it. The experiment we just performed confirms it. We have discovered Ajax.
I couldn't possibly sleep at a time like this, Sid. I got a lot of work to do if we're gonna save the world.
These are the Beam Chronicles, with your host, MJ Dooney. Book 3, Cataclysm. Chapter 16, Cidney Kovorski.
Assembling Ajax turned out to be no simple task. Doing so required the combined genius of the three smartest men I had ever met, Phil Kovorski, Enzo Skelton, and the written guidance of my father. Even with Dr. K's notes translated by me into English, it seemed the process required a substantial amount of cook time. A week, apparently, was required to amass any non-negligible amount of stable Ajax. We had little over a day before Queztopo returned to his rampage. A week from now, it would be too late. But in the most utterly convenient stroke of blatant, stupid, fluky fortune, Phil managed to work out a shortcut. It seemed that Tico fluid, the substance Phil had developed purely for Jackson's therapeutic purposes, that morphed into a different form with a specific application of the TI to it, was perfectly, by accident, a midpoint product of the synthesis of Ajax. In a way, it made sense. Matter that responded specifically and strangely to Jackson's telekinetic force could potentially be related to matter that responded not at all to that force. The extent of that relation was larger than I may have expected, much to our benefit. Coincidental, maybe. For me, it felt more like a forecast than randomness, although those technically had ceased to occur. I could not express why, but it was as if something was guiding us toward victory, with Kovorski and Phil as their conduits instead of Howie. My brother himself disagreed, considered it to be patently dumb luck, but did not let that fact distract him from his efforts to finish the process, converting all of the vats of Tico fluid we had left in the arena into Ajax with Enzo's assistance. The rest of us were reduced to grunt work, manual labor, and brute force, but we were all willing to do what it took to facilitate the cause. Even Sturgis contributed where he could. Once we had succeeded in transforming all of the Tico fluid into Ajax, resulting in a sizable, while not gargantuan, pile of the wine-purple gemstones, the debate over how to utilize these reserves began. Clearly, we needed to use some of them in constructing some sort of cage in which to contain Queztopo while we figured out how to recover Jackson's psyche. Charlie and I were adamant that this enclosure should be what we used all of the Ajax on, considering we scarcely had enough for just that, and it was the most crucial piece. The remaining equalizers, as well as Enzo and Murphy, had other ideas on how to use our meager Ajax supply. It was their wish to construct some sort of armor from it, in order to grant them each the immunity I had to our foes' telekinetic powers, and thus to enable them to participate in our operation to capture Queztopo. Charlie was incredibly put off by the mere suggestion, privately divulging to Phil and me that she suspected it was all motivated by glory lust. She theorized that they only wished for such armor out of some selfish whim to have a direct role in subverting the apocalypse. And yet, in spite of her distrust and anger, even Charlie knew that it was a battle she had no ground to fight. First and foremost, we owed the others at least this much for the unanimous and unwavering support most of them had shown us thus far. Secondly, she and I had faced off with Queztopo twice now, and both battles only ended by a mutual recognition of futility, and had no physical victor. It was difficult to say how it would go were we to allow the fight to escalate to completion, especially considering we would still be restraining our efforts. Any animal is hard to get into a cage, specifically one as savage and merciless and powerful as Quez. More bodies, experienced bodies, with at least some measure of capacity to withstand his onslaught, grossly increased the odds of our success. With Murphy, Enzo, Rector, Sparks, Mathis, and even Sturgis assisting Charlie and I in our effort, the warrior prince of Jingar would have many moving targets on which to focus, targets he could not simply toss aside and move on from. Perhaps we could overwhelm him, surround him. I was not convinced the Ajax armor was the worst idea. The trouble with it was twofold: the scarcity of Ajax and the frailty of it. We did not have enough to construct a holding cell for Queztopo, plus 6 armor suits, and even if we did, Ajax was brittle. It shattered on the slightest impact, and Quez could easily bash our companions with a hefty enough projectile, break their armor, and annihilate them. It was an extra step in the murder process, but was that really worth the sacrifice, not to mention the opportunity cost of a smaller, less stable cage? Of course, it was Phil who found a way to circumvent this issue. I was the thought experiment that led him to the solution, though, which I felt some unjustified level of pride about. Phil realized that I defied Queztopo's telekinetic influence due to the Ajax in my bloodstream, but I was not myself composed entirely of Ajax. In fact, a very small concentration of it generated my immunity. It was from there he discovered one of the oddest properties of Ajax, this bizarre radiation, as if the effects of it naturally permeated, dissolved, seeped ever so slightly into whatever happened to be touching it. This power radiation was naturally slight, short-ranged, but Phil, with assistance from Kovorski's notes, had found a way to kickstart it, power it up. It was suddenly remarkably easy to imbue any sort of material with Ajax's primary function, from steel to wood to plastic, anything. With sufficient time in contact with Ajax and sufficient energy, the gem could lend its TI-proof characteristic to whatever it was immediately contacting. All Phil had to do was take the armor he'd constructed for one of our equalizers, strategically place small samples of Ajax that we had developed from the Tico fluid, kickstart this radioactive sensation, and wait for the armor to uptake the resistance. It was a process Phil claimed to have full physical understanding of. I myself just counted it as miraculous and ventured to explain it no further. From helmets to boots, each piece of armor constructed from a synthetic carbon fiber stronger than steel and more impervious than Kevlar was sufficiently charged by the power of Ajax, tested against the TI in the catches, and distributed to Murphy, Lane, Cal, Madman, Sturgis, and Enzo, who had also crafted a new, immune set of wings and arms. Truthfully, the armor looked quite badass. As the synthetic fiber took on the TI-proof property of the Ajax embedded within it, it simultaneously adopted some of the dark, grievous, toxic purple color. Seeing them all together, lined up in these fiendish new uniforms like a well-coordinated army of highly skilled operatives, inspired a twinge of extra confidence in the mission we were just about to take on. The foolish, terrifying mission to save our friend. Wave 1, I proclaimed, designating the initiation of the final verbal run-through of our plan.
Cidney and I entered the castle.
Charlie recited her part, standing beside me with her arms folded across her chest.
We instigate a confrontation with Queztopo before his 72-hour respite runs out and he leaves to kill people. Get him distracted, focused on us, and ensure he's got no tricks up his sleeve. If he does, we neutralize them too.
Wave 2.
Mathis, Sparks, and I. We enter the castle from 3 different directions, coordinating the assault via comms.
And I enter from above.
He showboatingly flashed the wings out of the pack on his back. They were as well dyed that vile, marvelous purple. Lane ignored his theatrics.
Once inside, each of us deploys a canister of aerosol to Ajax, blue canisters.
Okay, and do all 4 of you have a blue canister?
Phil nervously took roll call.
We don't have the chance to use any of them more than once, and I'm out of them either way, so either somebody's got 2 or...
We good, babe, we good.
Madman tipped his head down, lifted his hands up, and wiggled them around.
All gas one can.
What is the range of the cloud deployed from the canisters? Cal extended a finger pistol at me and lifted it as he drawled.
10-foot radius, compadre, so get him close now, y'all.
And this gas will neutralize his telekinesis, but only theoretically, only temporarily, and only if he inhales.
Phil reminded the group.
Try to make sure he doesn't bolt out of the cloud or hold his breath. And next?
Green cans next, got plenty of those.
Lane calmly tossed one up and down in her hand.
But be extra careful with those too. Because why? What's in them?
Kovorski neurotoxin, yeah?
Mathis replied, tapping the side of his head.
Neurotoxin ass, and Phil's right, don't fuck around with it. I've been on the receiving end when Foom killed me, and trust me, it's full body paralysis. Even if you're successful and expose Quez to it, if the Ajax doesn't knock out his TI, he'll still be able to float around, slam things into you, all of that, especially if you accidentally expose yourself, or worse, me and Cidney. Keep your helmet strapped on tight and your wits about you. Do you understand?
He ain't trivializing, Shade.
Cal coolly assured, slapping Mathis heartily on the back.
Mike's a goof, but I promise what you're saying is getting through.
Madman grinned like a jester, then nodded to Charlie.
Don't fuck with the greenins. I got him, bae.
In any case, I refocused our strategic meeting. Assuming we established some form of incapacitation, either via gas form Ajax or gas form K-toxin or both, Wave 3.
Timmy and I,
Murphy said, rustling his mustache.
we come in on the chopper and drop the Ajax box on his head.
He paused to tap his fist twice rapidly into the side of our man-sized purple container and waited for the reverberating clang to subside before he proceeded.
I work the mechanism to drop the cage, Sturgis flies the bird.
There was much that could be said about Tim Sturgis's deficiencies, and many reasons to exclude him from this mission altogether. He was reportedly an ace helicopter pilot.
Whole shebang should be done in under a minute. Keep talking to each other throughout, and might I add,
He spun to look at Charlie specifically.
the first sign of fishy business, we book. All of us, all 8 of us, plus Phil up top. If it's not going to work, cut, run. Deal?
Yeah, Murph.
She rolled her eyes. I was unsure if I believed her conviction because truthfully I myself was unsure if I would be willing to retreat from this fight. Hope was so perilously low prior to our discovery of Ajax, I had almost forgotten the euphoria associated with it. Now that this exalted feeling of promise had returned to me, I wondered how capable I would be to give it back. Return to despair. After all I had been through, another failure would be almost impossible to stomach. Most of the group cleared out of Phil's lab once our rundown was finished. They left momentarily to seek privacy, the last chance they had to say goodbye. Most of their closest family and friends were granted refuge in HQ, one of the perks of being a high-ranking official of the most powerful bureau on the planet. Murphy had his daughter and granddaughter, Cal and Lane had their wives, etc. They all went away to their respective loved ones, the last opportunity each had to explain this might be our last stand. The world's last chance. However, Charlie, Phil, and I remained where we were, silently folding our arms and sitting in a row on Phil's desk, waiting for the goodbyes to wrap up so we could press on with the operation. The only family any of us had were part of this mission anyway.
Hey, Charlie, listen.
Phil, go to bed. You've been fucking incredible, but you look like death. Plus, we don't need you anymore.
No point, right? Either we catch our beastie and I'll sleep soundly when he's contained, or we don't, and it's game over anyway. What's the point sleeping? Anyway, that's not what I want to talk to you about.
What is it, brother? Phil puffed out one cheek, brushed his fingers over his furrowed brow as he hopped off the desk and strode away from us. Then, spinning on his heels, he dug into his pocket and pulled out a bloody purple bullet.
Here. I made it. It's a bullet. An Ajax bullet.
What?
She asked with such icy disbelief it sent a shiver down the length of my spine.
Phil? What the fuck? What could possibly be the purpose of making an Ajax bullet short of—
I know.
Phil interrupted her, clenching his eyes shut.
Well, we had a little extra left, so I thought maybe just in case, right?
Wrong. There is no just in case, Phil. Sorry, there's no situation where I use that bullet on him.
Good.
He asserted, thrusting it toward her.
No, seriously, good. Don't use it, please. But take it. Take it away from me because I made it, you know? Which means if push comes to shove, I might use it. Or worse, give it to somebody else who will, so it's yours. You're the only one I trust not to use it, Charlie. You're the only one who can make sure I don't regret making it. Hold on to it for me and don't use it. Okay?
She stared at him for a while, nervously licking his lip as the bullet trembled in his outstretched hand. Charlie gradually nodded, wrapping her fingers around the tip of it, relieving him of the temptation, stuffing it into the pocket of her trench coat. Phil sighed, stopped shaking, then smiled, the most worn-out, exhausted smile I had ever seen.
Thank you.
Sure.
She distantly accepted his gratitude.
Oh, wait!
Phil suddenly exclaimed.
Here, this too. I promise you I get it back to you. Didn't even scuff it.
He reached into his other pocket and retrieved the boner rock. Same shape, size, and form as when she had granted it to him to study, again attached to a string. I briskly accepted it, and I assisted her in getting it tied around her neck while she held up her locks. She spun it between her fingers silently a few times before Phil cleared his throat, spoke up again.
Anyway, good luck, guys. I'll be watching from up top, way up top. Just don't eat it, all right? I'll be pretty bummed about anyone dying. Maybe not Sturgis, but I don't even know what I'd do without either of you.
It would have perhaps been too artificial for Charlie to hug my brother in that moment, which is why she instead simply slapped him firmly on the shoulder. Still, this seemed inadequate to me. I hugged him twice as hard. Queztopo's lair was astoundingly beautiful. It was constructed entirely out of jet-black, shimmering igneous rock, spewed up from submarine volcanoes whose activity was stimulated by Quez himself, and the structure was somewhat of an architectural masterpiece, spiraling up into the sky like three twisting columns of obsidian. Each spiraling arm was subsequently composed of smaller spirals, which were in turn self-similar smaller spirals, I suspected all the way down to a molecular level. And it was gargantuan, almost half as tall as HQ. Still, I tried not to act too thunderstruck when Charlie grouped me, Fly, Madman Mathis, Cal Sparks, and lastly, Lane Rector onto the black sandy beach at his front door. The mission was more important than the structure was impressive. Murphy, Sturgis, are you close? I asked into my earpiece.
2 minutes out. Chopper set on high stealth, so he won't hear it. Good luck, kids.
I nodded to the rest of them, indicating it was time to take their positions. Enzo deployed his wings and took to the sky, jetting up to the roof of Queztopo's palace, while the rest of them set off to their strategic locations, surrounding the throne room we knew stood in the center of this monument. Charlie and I lingered at the front gate, and she smirked as she craned her neck up toward the top of his lair.
Bit ostentatious, don't you think, Sid?
Yes, I concur. He lacks Jackson's subtle sense of style.
You ready?
Indeed. It was all the more pep talk either of us needed. She grabbed my arm and grouped us into the throne room. Such a conceited description, and yet it was in no doubt a throne, constructed from the same shiny black stone the rest of the tower was made of, and he was arrogantly slung across it, 1 foot on the ground, leaning into his elbow propped up on one armrest, while kicking the foot he had crossed over the other. He lifted his unnatural blue gaze to us once he had recognized we were in his chambers, and a devilish grin crept across his face. I quickly thought about knocking his teeth in, stimulating that familiar cool rush associated with my body's Ajax reflex, establishing my own immunity. He made it so easy.
You know, for a while.
He sang out, spinning into a seated position and grasping the arms of his throne.
I thought you two wouldn't even bother coming here to challenge me. I was preparing myself for a massive disappointment.
That preparation may come in handy, Quez. I think you'll find this meeting is gonna go much differently than the last two.
Oh, I have no doubt.
He slyly smirked.
I've made my own arrangements to ensure as much.
and he thrust his upturned palms out to the side, closing his eyes. From holes that appeared in the floor ascended a pair of white orbs, each a yard in diameter, one on each side of him and hovering in front of either of us. They were amongst the most peculiar things I had ever seen, fuzzy and blurry. Flares came off of them in all directions. It was like spherical fire, a miniature star, only utterly colorless, the purest tone of white I had ever seen, to the point where I had to shield my eyes to look at them directly. They emitted a soft, musical, harmonizing hum, not unlike the voice of Queztopo himself.
Beautiful, are they not? And that, I think, is their great deception. The Jinkari people have used these for centuries in invasions. You see, primitive species get one look at them and assume there's some sort of holy light, some sign from the Creator. Hell, the Creator himself. After all, how could an object so unfathomably gorgeous be anything more than perfectly benevolent? How can such a beauty be so terribly destructive?
He shot Charlie a seedy glance. Up and down her body, she snarled, clenching her fists until the knuckles cracked.
Truth is their weapons. Telekinetic sinks, if you will, orbs of pure TI, Jackson particle-generated disruption. Their sole purpose is to devour, consume, destroy, pull every ounce of matter into their unbreakable grips in all directions from the instant I activate them until the instant I deactivate them. Our last resorts. We use them sparingly. Back home, they're scarce. It takes years to make one. Here it was actually pretty easy. And lucky you, that means I had 3 full days of free time to charge them adequately. 3 days worth of my power condensed into each of these sinks. Turn them on and your planet is eliminated. Did you really think I was just sitting around waiting for you?
He gently, almost imperceptibly, touched the index finger on either of his hands to his thumb. And the glorious hums of these glittering, breathtaking, pure white orbs of fire instantaneously shattered into a wailing, windy howl as they both began their slow rotation. Charlie was forcefully yanked toward the one in front of her, but she briskly grouped behind me and my Ajax immunity for cover. Meanwhile, everything else within a few feet of these mysterious orbs was sucked toward them, into them, then vanished, likely from the plane of existence completely and permanently.
Granted, they're small now, but only get bigger from here.
Queztopo's voice effortlessly cut through the cacophonous, banshee-like rage of the sinks.
Let them warm up a bit. The longer they run, the greater the range of their effect, and I'm not one to impose on your leadership, Cidney, but I would recommend the two of you handle these pretty soon. They unfortunately will destroy the planet if left unchecked.
He crossed his legs and hovered straight up above his throne, cackling in his beautiful melodious way as the sinks kept turning, wailing, and devouring. "Can you ungroup one?" I yelled down to Charlie, still cowering behind me.
Let me find out.
She yelled back, then disappeared into particulate dust. I saw what may have been the wavy remnants of her body swirling around the sink to our right, like a swarm of infinitesimal bees or a cloudy diffraction of light. She regrouped behind me again to shield herself from the force of Queztopo's weapons.
Yeah, I can, but it's really slow going. These things are fucking massive. I can't touch them. I can't get close to them without ungrouping first. It might jack me up. I'm gonna have to focus everything I got on it, but I can take out one at least. How about you? Can you get one?
Without hesitation, I twisted the cannon on my arm against the thigh of my jeans, then aimed it toward the other sink and fired a blast of K-Pack. The familiar hiss of my corrosive body fluid was absent, inaudible through the raging hurricane generated by the orbs, so I glanced at Charlie to confirm that it had any effect at all.
Smaller. I can six it. K-Pack will definitely work eventually. You're just gonna need a fucking lot of it.
Incidentally, I have a lot of it. And with that, we set to work disarming Queztopo's toys. I did my best to pay no mind to Charlie, since the hypnotic display of her circling the sink would only confuse me, distract me from my own. Instead, I stepped toward it, spun the cup with my left wrist and fired. Once the K-Pack hit its target, I repeated the process with my right cannon, and repeated in alternating fashion. Twist, fire, twist, fire. The change in size to the sink was utterly invisible, practically nothing at all, and yet I persisted. Twist and fire.
Sid, what's the progress?
Lane's voice called into my ear. I had almost forgotten that the rest of them were still here. This was ultimately a plan to thwart Queztopo once and for all. Everyone fall back, I commanded, diligently persisting with my twisting and firing. Retreat, the mission is lost.
Like hell, we just got into position.
Lane, he was prepared for an assault. You must protect yourselves.
Sid.
Murphy's gruff voice cut into our debate.
You know, in 5 minutes, your 3-day pact with him is up. He'll just bomb the world anyway. This is our last stand.
Murphy, you made us promise that at first sign of fishiness we would cut and run.
You know, I didn't think it would be 2 seconds into the mission either. Besides, you ain't cutting and running.
I would have replied, but I was too woozy to construct the proper argument. I had never used so much K-Pack in such a short time. Typically, it was the sort of thing I used once to fulfill a specific purpose, and it was so effective, so efficient, I would not require any additional usages. Never before had I pushed myself this far, to the point where my wrists were throbbing and my head was spinning. It was hard to speak at all in this exhausted emotional state. All I could do was focus on the sink. All I could do was twist, fire, twist, fire.
We coming in on you!
Do not dare to enter this building.
He's gassed. Cidney needs us, guys. We just gonna sit out here waiting for him to give us all clear. We gonna get off our fucking asses and help a partner out.
No! I growled as I clenched my fist to fire more K-Pack at the sink. More, always more. When would it end?
Is it game time now, man?
Enzo, you in position?
Affirmative, ready to drop in on the signal.
No signal. I do not give such a signal. Retreat immediately. This is an order.
Let's rock it, kids.
And before I could commit myself to protesting further, before I could gather the voice required to save these broken people from themselves, they set off their explosives, blew through the obsidian walls, and ambushed the throne room from 3 separate corners, plus the roof above. For a brief while, I was relieved that they had disobeyed me. For a brief while, watching them come gallivanting in, Lane deflecting Queztopo's projectile chunks with her blast shield on her forearms as she positioned herself, Cal easily dancing through the assault with utterly careless facility, Mike just sort of heeding the blows while laughing like a fool, and Enzo swooping and swirling overhead like an acrobat. All of it made me think that maybe there was a chance they could apprehend Queztopo, with Charlie and I so preoccupied. Maybe we could disable the sinks while these deranged fools deployed their canisters of Ajax, trapping our beast, winning the day. I kept focus on my task, twist, fire, as I spun my head around the room, eagerly watching the moment of truth unfold. Lane took cover behind a hefty chunk Quez had previously tossed toward her, waiting for his attention to be drawn elsewhere before rolling out from behind it, cracking her can on her hip, and firmly tossing it overhandedly. It was a direct hit to his gut as the gas expanded all around him. He growled and yelled, rapidly falling through the cloud to the ground.
Yep.
As Cal flipped over top his own cover rock and whipped his canister sidearm, plunking Quez in the head. Again, it expanded and the cloud encompassing Queztopo got thicker. Mathis, living up to his nickname, scuttled right up to the center of the fracas, tongue hanging from the corner of his mouth, and stopped 2 feet in front of the grounded Queztopo, frantically holding his breath and waiting for the Ajax to settle. Madman kicked him across the face, knocking him to the floor, then cracked his own blue canister and gingerly set it right beside Queztopo. He turned and ran away, lifting his knees to his chest, holding his ears like a child lighting off a firecracker when the can popped open. The dense fog of Ajax grew almost opaque. Finally, Enzo swooped down, dropping the final blue canister like a bomb. And the faint silhouette of Queztopo was completely eclipsed by the smoke.
Greens!
Lane called out, popping the K-toxin canister off of her belt and tossing it as well into the cloud. The 3 of them stood in a line in front of me, cracking green canister after green canister and chucking it into the foray, encompassing Queztopo in both paralyzing and incapacitating smoke. I continued to twist and fire, my sink now roughly the size of a watermelon. Charlie's even smaller. Everything was working. Could we truly win this day?
Stop! Stop!
Enzo exclaimed, swooping down and landing beside them.
You're wasting it, don't you see? He's not inhaling. He's not breathing. It's all for nothing if he doesn't breathe.
Go tickle him or something.
Punch him in the diaphragm. That'll get him to breathe.
No, don't attack him. He'll just dodge and slip out. Merely surround him. While he's in the Ajax cloud, he cannot emit Jaxons. He's just a man in there, and he can only hold his breath for so long if we bar him from escaping.
The 4 of them bustled into the twisting purple and green haze, ostensibly blocking all potential exits for Queztopo to take. I could only imagine the commotion inside, what sort of action could line up with the occasional grunt or hoot or not so fast I heard through the comms. The equalizers in Enzo diligently held firm, and Quez had yet to emerge. Surely he could not hold his breath for much longer, and a single gasp would be all it took. 1 breath, and he would be frozen and toothless. 1 breath, and we had him trapped. We just needed to be patient.
Looks like he's stuck.
Sturgis eagerly assessed from his video feed.
Woohoo, we got him, guys. He's grass. I'm bringing in the big box.
Jim, no, you goddamn idiot. Don't do it. Don't fly this thing in.
But Murphy could not stop him in time. Sturgis stubbornly, insubordinately, and moronically rammed the helicopter through the wall of Queztopo's palace. He hovered it expertly above the cloud of smoke in which the tyrant was contained, perfectly positioned to drop our Ajax box on top of him. What Sturgis had foolishly failed to consider was the effect the propeller would have on the gaseous cloud holding Queztopo in check. My heart sank into my stomach as the spiraling propeller dissipated the smoke away before Murphy could deploy our box, and Queztopo finally took a mighty breath of the clean Ajax and K-toxin-free air, laughed victoriously, and hopped into a hover, thrusting the fist straight upward and shooting the helicopter toward the ceiling of his lair.
Murphy, get out of there!
Lane cried out.
I've got them!
Fly declared, bursting from the ground at breakneck speed and barreling toward the helicopter, accelerating upward. I craned my neck to watch, still firing K-Pack at the white orb before me. I saw him tucking in his wings as he flung through the front windshield, emerging seconds later with Murphy and Sturgis held under either of his mechanical arms, deploying his wings yet again and jetting back toward the ground. Queztopo halted the chopper, then swung it toward Skelton and his refugees, narrowly missing time after time, crumbling the walls of his mighty castle. They all landed safely across the room from the others, and Skelton set Sturgis and Murphy down to the floor. Sturgis, predictably, bolted out the front door. It was probably for the best, given how entirely he had destroyed us already.
Skelton, that was fucking badass.
Gal Sparks proclaimed. Queztopo granted him the courtesy of finishing the compliment before he completely throttled our meager insurgents. A column of lava spewed up from the ground, glancing across Cal's famously handsome face. I did not know his voice was capable of generating such volume, such raw anguish as it did through that agonizing scream. He tore off his helmet and clutched his singed face. I did my best to ignore it, to keep going. Twist, fire, twist, fire.
Sparky!
Mike, I got him! I
glanced over my shoulder to catch Lane, scooping Cal, still howling off the ground. I spun back to the sink before me, dwindling in size but still wailing and pulling. I increased the tempo of my blasts. Twist fire, twist fire.
Sparky! You hit Sparky, you fucking asshole!
Madman spat in blinded fury, too distraught to recall his Cajun accent.
Mathis, don't shoot!
Lane tried to stop him. Twist fire, twist fire. My vision blurred briefly. I shook my head, closing my eyes. Twist fire.
No!
4 gunshots rang out. Then the undeniable sound of bullets striking armor. 4 times, in precisely the same location. Not even our synthetic could withstand that much concussive force. Madman groaned, and I turned my head just in time to see him crumple to the ground, purple armored chest stained crimson with blood. You cannot shoot a telekinetic, but I did not blame Mathis for forgetting in his hectic distress.
God damn it, you crazy idiot!
Lane cursed his name, then hustled across the castle to hoist him onto her other shoulder, but before she took another single step, a massive block of obsidian shot out of the ground. It wobbled, slightly precariously perched, then began to topple over.
Lane, run!
Murphy bellowed as I continued twisting and firing at the telekinetic sink. I heard the rapid clump of her boots against the igneous floor of Queztopo's lair. Shortly thereafter, the boom of the enormous stone striking the ground. When I next peered in their direction, they were gone, all of them. Crushed for certain. No, it was not for certain. Maybe Lane found a crevice, a strategic place for her to duck into with her fallen brothers in arms. Perhaps they had survived. For now, I would believe it, unfathomable as it may have been, because I could not lose focus on disintegrating the orb of destruction still hovering before my face. For now, I would assume they had survived just to save me from getting distracted. Twist, fire. I reminded myself because at that point I was too beaten down and exhausted to do it on instinct. Twist, fire. I glanced across the way at Charlie, still making stable progress toward destroying her sink. Still dust, orbiting around Queztopo's great weapon like it was the nucleus of an atom. She likely did not even know what was going on. How close we had gotten to success. She was too diligently sixing the task at hand to concern herself with the death of our 3 friends. No, they were not dead. They were fine. I needed to keep twisting and firing. I had never depleted myself of so much K-Pack in one sitting. I wondered if there was a limit, if it was possible to bleed myself dry of it, if the sink would disappear before I exhausted my reserves, and what would happen to me if I did. I could already feel my knees buckling, my muscles quaking. Sparkling auras eclipsed my visions. My head was pounding. I could hear a high-pitched screech from the back of my skull. I was certain was only my imagination, and a tingling numbness across only the left side of my face, yet I kept firing. More and more K-Pack, devouring the sink slowly with a hiss, now only scarcely audible above its windy roar. Endoskeleton saved the world that day. I could not overstate his contribution to the effort. He granted us the opportunity we needed to devote ourselves to disarming these sinks, swooping and kicking Queztopo, pestering him, soaring in circles as he dodged projectile after projectile. Were it not for his timing and grace, his keen dive-bombing assault, there would be nothing to distract Quez from Charlie and I. The sinks would have sucked the planet into their powerful pull. Keep going, Enzo, I yelled my encouragement through chattering teeth and quivering lips. My sink was barely the size of a tennis ball now. Charlie's about the same.
You're doing fantastic, kiddo! You are a hero!
I may have heard him laugh as he spiraled straight upward, narrowly avoiding 2 hefty rocks clapping together, then driving headfirst into Queztopo, delivering a solid cross to the jaw with one of his artificial limbs. Quez toppled end over end, emitting a cord-like wail of frustration before orienting himself upright, floating in front of Fly. I caught a quick glimpse of the curious smirk on his face. Then all hell broke loose. The helicopter, which I had just as well forgotten about, burst through the wall behind Enzo, who dashed straight down to dodge it, crash landing and rolling between Charlie and I, up to the foot of the throne. Clearly Queztopo was shooting to kill now. Murphy, get out of here, I commanded.
Not until it's over, Sid.
Murphy stubbornly refused my order.
Not until all four of us get out of here.
Enzo! I panted over my shoulder, twisting the cups of my arm and firing K-Pack. The sink was only inches in diameter now. Enzo! Protect Murphy! And he did, without question. He leapt off the ground, flew across the room, and scooped Murphy up into the robotic lower arms. Enzo continued to fly circles around the castle as jet-black shards of igneous rock cascaded from above until finally he found his opening, broke back toward the center throne. The two men landed between Charlie and I spun around just quickly enough to nod in approval at Fly, smile warmly to Murphy. They did not return my uplifting signal of encouragement, instead stared beyond me in stupefied horror.
No, shit, Cidney!
Murphy cried, thrusting out his hand and running toward me. I turned my neck just in time to see the cause of his alarm. Queztopo had utilized the diversion to telekinetically apprehend a few blasts of K-Pack without me noticing. And at a speed too quick for any of us to stop, the K-Pack splashed onto the Ajax cage resting on the ground beneath the helicopter. We watched in horror as it dissolved into thin air. Our only chance at ever containing him was gone. Just like that.
Valiant effort, gentlemen. Genius. Much better than I ever could have fathomed, but to no avail. You cannot stop me now.
The situation continued to deteriorate. The helicopter suddenly crashed out of the sky, barreling toward Murphy and Skelton. Enzo reacted quickly, snatching Murphy up for the third time and leaping over the incoming vehicle, temporarily securing their safety as it slid away from them. But Queztopo was relentless. He snapped the propeller from the top of the helicopter and jabbed it toward them. Fly landed, dropped Murphy onto Queztopo's throne, spun around and snatched the blade with his lower mechanical arms, just in time to save himself from being punctured. And for a while they held still, Queztopo pushing into him while Enzo bared his teeth, grunted, clenching the helicopter blade until the robotic knuckles on his artificial hands busted through the skin with a downfall of sparks.
You will not win this round, you dastardly, beastly fiend!
He declared in the famous bravado of yesteryear. The epic bluster we had so diligently worked to squash rushed back into his voice as if it had never left him. He snatched the sunglasses off of his face with his human hands and spiked them into the ground, professing without a hint of a stammer.
Not while the Fly stands to thwart you!
Charlie and I finished destroying the sinks all at once, halting the violent, terrific noise abruptly. I fired the final shot of K-Pack required to melt mine and collapsed limply to my knees just as Charlie finally succeeded in ungrouping hers, regrouping beside me, a dizzy, unstable mess. Overgrouping syndrome was something I thought had ceased to exist, and yet I recognized it instantly. It was fleeting. She was too tough to let it floor her the way it used to, but nonetheless, I rose back to my feet and held her by the shoulders. It was only a moment before her eyes quit spinning. Charlie, get us out of here, I begged.
Give me a sec, Sid. I just need a second.
She gasped, nearly sobbed, heaving, then swallowing.
Go help Fly.
I nodded, released her, took one step toward their grappling match, keen to finally be useful and assist the hero of the day. One step was all I had time to take. One step before again it got worse, because one step later, the blade snapped up, tearing Enzo's bottom artificial limbs clean off. His feverish lament was cut short as the propeller decked him under the chin, sending him backflipping skyward. Before I could react, before even Charlie could react, the chopper blade lurched forward at the man who was behind Skelton. Puncturing straight through his torso and into the mighty throne. Murphy. No,